and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Morgan and you are on my homestead here in Wyoming where we have a lot of animals. We do a lot of cooking and gardening and just hanging out and having fun. Today we are going to be making pie crusts. I actually have a recipe I want to make and I will be bringing you along with me on that here soon, but I figured why not make my life a little bit easier, get some pie crusts made and put in the freezer, that way we have them whenever we want. So this is super quick, super easy. I think a lot of times people think pie crusts are very intimidating, so I'm going to take you along with me and show you how easy it really is and how simple it can be, and then I'll give you a few quick updates around the homestead. So without further ado, let's get our pie crusts made. This is super quick, super simple, and let's get it done. Alright, so in my food processor, I'm going to add in 2.5 cups of flour. And then to that, I'm going to add in 2.5 sticks of butter. No one said that pie crust was ever healthy, but it is delicious. So we do enjoy having a few of them around, and what's great is you can make these pie crusts and then shape them in like a disc and then just put them in the freezer and you can enjoy them. They literally take about an hour to thaw. First thing we're gonna do is just cut up our butter. This is not quite frozen, but right on the edge of frozen. So I'm just gonna cut this up into half tablespoon increments. I have 2.5 sticks of butter here. So we're gonna get that cut up and then into the processor. And then to that, we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of white sugar. And then 1 teaspoon of salt. Put the lid on, and then we're just going to give it a pulse. Down. This is perfect. So you just want, see how we have clumps of butter in there, but it's like pretty well mixed in there. That's exactly what we want. I do have a few big chunks still, so I'm gonna go ahead and do a few more pulses just to make sure we get those larger chunks taken care of. Everything is nice and mixed. So I'm gonna dump that into a large bowl. And what's great is you can make a few batches now that this is already dirty. And then I like to just grab a fork. Let me bring you in a little bit closer. Okay, so you can see our chunks of butter, and we want to work fairly quickly because those need to remain. The chunks are what give us kind of that flaky crust. And I'm going to start off with 3 tablespoons of ice water. Ideally, we'll probably end up doing more, but I'd rather have to add more than, you know, have too much. It's harder to take water out than it is to add. So we're gonna start with 3 and then just give that a little bit of a toss. Perfect. I'm gonna add another one. And it's still, so ideally what you're going for is you want it to stick together when you go to create kind of a ball. So let's grab another tablespoon of water. Really, pie crust is just all off of feel versus over anything else. It's one of those that's kind of dependent on the moisture in your air. It can totally vary just place by place, and I live in a very dry climate, so we oftentimes have to add more water to things. So you're just going to want to keep going until you can kind of clump it when you push it together with your hands. Alright, so I just tested it and see how I can pick it up and then squeeze it and it becomes a dough. That's exactly what we want. So what I'm going to do is grab a piece of saran wrap. And lay it out on the cutting board, and then I'm going to grab about half of my dough. and put it in the saran. And then you do want to try and touch it as little as possible just because we're trying to keep this cold. And our hands are obviously warm, which will cause the butter to melt. We really want to keep the butter in these small little pieces. That way it will make a flaky crust. So here I'm just kind of shaping it. I just form it up and then flatten it down into a puck shape, and that will help make it easier to roll out as it's already closer to our flattened pie shape. You can see here all of those chunks of butter. That is exactly what we're looking for a flaky crust. So then I noticed the bottom of my dough was still a little bit floury, so I did add 1 more tablespoon and just mix that around, and then we're going to repeat the process for the second pastry dough. So to par bake this crust, meaning cook it once and then cook it again, commonly used for quiche and that kind of thing, you're going to put a piece of parchment paper inside it once it's formed in your pan, put some weights in or some dried beans, and then go ahead and bake that at 425 degrees until it starts to turn bronze, so about 15 minutes. And then if you're not par baking them, go ahead and just line the sheet, put the filling in, whether you're making a quiche or whatnot, bake it at the desired temperature for that quiche. I would recommend covering it with a piece of foil though, just to make sure that the bottom gets fully cooked before the top gets too brown. All right, so as you can see, we have all of these buttery spots in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put this in the fridge. If you want to freeze these, now's the time you just stick this in the freezer. So you would just keep it in its saran wrap, stick it in the freezer, and then pull it out like an hour and a half before you want to use it. Just roll it out like normal and you have a pie crust. But I'm gonna go ahead and use this in the next couple of days, actually tomorrow. So this will stay in the refrigerator for me, but let's go ahead and have a quick little chit chat about what's going on the homestead. All right, so our pie crusts are made and I wanted to just come out and enjoy this beautiful night. It is so still. It's like 60 degrees out, I think, and honestly, I just love it. So I figured, why not bring you out here, have a little friend-to-friend chat, and just kind of hang out. So I wanted to give you a few updates on the homestead. We have a few exciting things coming up and our busy season is right around the corner. We do have some new members that will be joining the homestead here pretty soon, fingers crossed, assuming everything goes well, and that will be 2 Idaho pasture pigs we are picking up. So fingers crossed that all goes through, but that is the idea, that we will be picking them up in a couple of weeks when they're old enough to come home with us. And then this gardening season, we are right around the corner, so I have about 20 days until I am good to start planting. We have some visitors that will be coming out here soon and just kind of enjoying Wyoming with us, relaxing with us, and also helping in the garden. So just helping get everything prepped. It's a really big job because it's basically me and Sam that do a majority of it on our own. And so anytime we can get help, it is so appreciated and just so helpful. So they're gonna be coming out and helping us in the garden, just kind of getting that going. We won't be able to plant most likely while they're here just because of fear of the last frost date being too late, but honestly the help is so appreciated. So that should be coming up soon and I'm just excited. This gardening season, my goal is to kind of stick with the things that we really enjoy. In the past I've gotten crazy with various varieties. I struggle keeping it all straight. So this year I'm just sticking to the few things that I know I like, a few varieties, and just kind of trying to keep it a bit more simple. I'm really hoping that we can get some watermelons to turn out. We've grown some phenomenal cantaloupes here because it gets really hot in the day and then really cold at night. So it'll be like 90 degrees during the day and then 60 degrees at night, and that huge fluctuation of temperature, I think, is what it is. Just makes the absolute sweetest cantaloupes. So fingers crossed this year we can get watermelon to grow. That is like my #1 goal. I think growing watermelon in Wyoming might not be the most traditional thing, but I'm super hopeful. I think it would be so sweet and so delicious. So that's my goal for this year, is just trying to keep my garden simple, manageable, and just making sure that we're producing the most amount of things that we actually enjoy. Cutting out a lot of the fancy things that are fun, but we don't necessarily eat or enjoy as much. So just kind of sticking to things like tomatoes, cucumbers, zucchini, squash, onions, potatoes, and peppers, and then obviously melons. We do have our raspberry bushes that are in there, and hopefully our apples make it. I'm not feeling hopeful, but those are kind of the things that we love to eat, and we're just gonna keep it down to those basics. So I hope that you would join me and come along with me this gardening season. And I also wish all of you the best of luck if you are putting your garden in now or already have it going. Please let me know how it's going down in the comments below. I genuinely love hearing about your gardens, your successes, your lessons learned. I think we can all learn from one another, so feel free to leave that down in the comments. I just want to thank you all so much for taking time out of your day to come hang out with me, and if you liked today's video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing if you want to follow along on our pigs and our goats, chickens, our garden, and all of our fun activities. I will catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for being here. Bye, friend.